All right, so we're going to continue on, but it's going to have a little bit of a detour in places when we look at the world today, what's happening with the war in the Middle East. Well, they call it a war, well, I guess it is a war, and the things that are happening. So, as we start this morning, we'll have a look at some slides and some actual maps as well. Okay. So firstly, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia and many others in the Middle East are all Islamic nations, all surrounding this one little nation which is no bigger than Canterbury, and it's called Israel. And the little place in the middle of it, well, it's not really in the middle, just towards the south of it, it's called Jerusalem. And there's this huge battle for this area, and we're going to continue to look at a little bit about that this morning as well. So the world oil is taken from countries which are Islamic controlled. You know, Saudi Arabia is still Islamic nation, even though it might be part of the America, what do you call it?
NATO.
No, not NATO. What did Donald Trump make this Abrahamic Accord? That's it. And things like that. But there's still Islamic nation. They're still controlled by Islam. But the hierarchy isn't a religious nation. We would call it still Islamic country, but it's not controlled like Iran was controlled by Islam and the clerics. And New Zealand, of course, is dependent on fossil fuels. We're dependent on fossil fuels and dependent on these Muslim countries to supply oil for New Zealand to Asian refineries, because we did have a refinery, but they clogged it all up. They put cement in there so you couldn't use it again. And we've got actually oil in the South Bay, down south, and we've got gas up in the north, and yet we're not, using it at all or trying to get it out. But so these Muslim nations, these Muslim countries, they control the oil that we want and that we need to use. So the Asian refineries, so the oil that comes out of these Muslim countries are then transported to Asian refineries, and then they will refine it to petrol, diesel, etc., and then transported back to New Zealand. So since we no longer refine oil and into these products, so we don't do any oil refinery. We're completely reliant on the Muslim nations for supplying the oil and Asian countries to refine it and then to bring it to us. And that, like American is now independent fuel. It's not dependent on any country. It can supply its own fuel, okay? And I guess they're going to be earning a bit more money because the oil has gone up in price. I don't know how much they're selling overseas, but maybe we could ask them for some oil and petrol and things rather than reliant on other countries. In fact, why don't we go and look for oil? Oh, it's too expensive. And the greenhouse gases and all those sort of things. Yeah, right. So, and I've called this self-defense. America self-defense attack against Iran. Okay? It is self-defense. It's not one that America's decided, let's go to war with Iran. Because Iran has got a whole lot of proxy, don't they? They've got proxies that will go into these other countries, blow themselves up as well as everybody else. And the threat of a nuclear bomb and all that sort of thing, Iran is an issue. So I've called it self-defense. And Iran empowers terrorist groups against Europe, USA, and Israel, and other places. Yeah. So
assassination attempts.
yes, that's right. So we see that not only is Iran firing back against the USA and Israel, but it's also attacking other Muslim countries, which is really interesting. They're not just firing rockets at Israel and America, you know, ships and planes and things like that, but they're also firing at other Muslim countries. Countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, UAE, Qatar. Why? They're Muslim. These are Muslim countries, aren't they? But they're different.
But friendlier to the West.
There's the difference between Shiite and Sunni. So when Muhammad died, there was this split where some said, hey, we want a family person to continue on Muhammad's reign. And others says, oh, no, we've got to find someone else to take over from Muhammad. And so you had this split of the Sunnis, and we'll talk a bit more about that later, but the split from the Sunnis and the Shiites. So there's the two groups which are against each other. So Iran has no qualms about firing at these nations. And these nations are also very sympathetic to America. Okay? So if we look at this map here, we've got all these nations here being fired at. So from Iran, not only is it firing at Israel, okay, and also we're firing at other countries here, but you can see where the Strait of Hormuz is. It's right along the border of Iran. So that's why where all the oil comes from has to come through here. And you can see now why we're reliant on some sort of peace. And this bit here, the Red Sea, well, how they would have to transport the oil from there to there, Iraq from there to there. Okay? So they have talked about that. And then come through here. But you see, all these are still Muslim countries. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Muslim country. You know, Sudan, Muslim countries. So they have a real, control over all the oil. And we can go to the book of Revelation and talk about a little bit about that too. But Shiite versus Sunni, that's what all this is about as well. So it's more complicated than what we think it is. All right? And it's more, we think it's political, but it's not actually political. So Iran is 90 to 95% Shiite. And we'll look at the difference later between them. So we have here all these Iraq, Iran here, Syria, and we have all these people here, the Houthis, Houthis, okay? So what are they? They're terrorists, aren't they? Terrorists. We've got terrorists here. We've got terrorists here. Hezbollah. Okay, you remember some of these names. Hezbollah here. And we've got the Palestinian Islamic Jihad here. And that's in Egypt. So Egypt's over here. So you have all these things. They're all part of Iran. So get rid of Iran, you'll diminish at least the finances to these groups here. That's the whole idea. Okay, so Israel, which is over here, wants to get rid of the Houthis and all these other Hezbollah and all these other ones, so that they can't attack Israel. I mean, that's the whole idea. But again, you have this Arabian Gulf and Iran taking control of the Strait of Hormuz, okay, where all our oil comes from. So now you can see why we have trouble we should have, one, got our own oil and our own gas and our own refinery, and not be reliant on other countries. But we're so reliant. Where are we going to get our oil from? I mean, it's a bit late now to go drilling for oil because it costs a lot of money. In fact, years ago, back in the 70s, late 70s, 80s, they were exploring for oil down the South Bay, and in Invercargill they bought, what did you say?
South Basin.
Basin, that's South Basin, okay. South Basin, okay, and in Invercargill they bought up a whole lot of houses. So, and then of course they stopped. Yeah. So look,
Change of government.
we need some protection along here, don't we? We need all the countries that are reliant on oil from this area, which we are, because it's going to be the oil is transported and transported. I think it's refined in South Korea. Then it's taken from South Korea and taken to New Zealand. It's a long way to travel. It's a long way to travel.
We just got it down the road.
Yeah. And so we need some protection along here. And I know that President Trump has asked Europe to bring some protection over to here, right? To protect against the attacks on the ships that are trying to get through this little spot here and to go through and deliver the oil. So NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte now says allies are rushing to find a way to help secure the Strait of Hormuz following massive pressure from President Trump. Okay, they said initially, they said no. Okay, you're not going to get any oil. Okay, you're not going to get any protection. We're going to pull out of NATO. We're paying a whole lot more. We're paying 90% of NATO and you're only paying 10%, you know? And we only just got it up to 10% or whatever it is. So I have been in contact with many allies. Strait has to open. It has to open for other countries to get the oil, the oil. Allies are discussing how to do that. What is the best way to do it? They are working to find a way forward. So clearly, it is an important, if I go back here, this bit here and the oil that comes from all these places, this little bit here is very, very, needs to be protected against Iran. Okay? So this is where we get our oil from, the Middle East. Okay, and this is the little strait that has to go through and then head to South Korea and then refined and then it's transported to New Zealand. Goes a long way. Goes a long way. So these are all Muslim nations. See how they control or could control all of the world by their economy. By saying, we're not going to drill any more oil. Well, they already do that in a sense. They want to get some more money. What do? They reduce the amount of oil into the economy, right? So now people have to bid for the oil because there's not enough oil. And that means the price goes up and their pocket starts bulging. So these Muslim countries have a huge control over the world economy. And as you can see, there's a huge influence of the Islamic world. Okay, Islamic world is this stuff here, and the grey stuff, or the mountains here. But you can see that all this is all Muslim or Islamic culture. It's big. And guess where we get our oil from? It's where we get our oil from. Okay. So, jihad struggle is claimed to be a spiritual battle. Okay, so when they come to different countries, they're saying it's a spiritual battle, and it is. It's a battle between good versus evil. And these countries are evil. Iran, the Iranians were jumping for joy and doing the old, I don't know how he does it, but the old president dance, you know, and shouting for joy. And I don't know who Joy is, but anyway, they were shouting for joy. Where's joy? Where's joy? And they were joyful. Okay. So it's a spiritual battle, but it also spills over into the physical, doesn't it?
It's pulling over.
Oh.
Forgot these.
Oh. All right. So let's turn in our Bibles to Ephesians. Ephesians. So spilling over into the physical. So it's a battle between good and evil, which is spilling over into the physical. And it's the same right back in the Garden of Eden, wasn't it? The battle between good and evil has always been there. I can only do one thing at a time. Right, chapter 6, verses 11 and 12. Verse 11. Put on the whole armour of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So from that verse we can see it is a spiritual battle, but there is a physical nature to it, right? It says in verse 11 to put on the whole armour of God. Well, where is the armour that I'm wearing? You don't see it, do you? It's a spiritual thing. This is to be the sword of the Lord, right? And the helmet of salvation. But you don't see it on me. It's a spiritual thing. And yet it's in verse 12, it spills over into the physical. So we have a wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. There is wickedness in high places. And we've seen that in Iran, how that wickedness falls out. If the people, the population of Iran, were demonstrating in the streets against the clerics, what we ended up with 30 or 40,000 were killed. Just mowed down. They didn't care about it. They're quite happy to kill people. And so that's evil. And we see the evil in our own politics, in our own country. We see evil in people wanting to gain power to implement their own agenda, for their own agenda. So we need to be careful and realize that there is a battle, but it's spilling over into the physical. It's spilling over into the physical. So turn over to Revelation chapter 16. Revelation 16. And verses 14 and then verse 20. Verse 14. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. So that's the battle of Armageddon. But notice, the physical has to be involved. We have the spiritual. Notice that in the spiritual here. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth. So that's the evil that's spreading all over the globe to bring the kings to the battle of Armageddon. And that's the final, well, not quite the final battle, because there's a final battle will be at the end of the millennial reign. Down to verse 20. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. So we see that all these things are going to change. Everything is going to change. Turn to the left a little ways, back to John, 3 John. Oops. 3 John, and there's only one chapter, but verse 11. Beloved, follow not that which is evil, but that which is good. He that doeth good is of God, but he that doeth evil hath not seen God. So we need to be careful when we look at who we vote for, right? We already see lots of evil, not only in our politics, I guess in American politics as well. And we take this verse on board, and we need to follow that, and not follow which is evil, that which is evil, but follow that which is good. Okay? So it's really important for us to realize that the spiritual will spill over into the physical. And we need to frame this jihad biblically, not philosophically. Okay? We need to look at it biblically, not philosophically. That's it. Oh boy. Just as well, I have some people who can speak English. Philosophically. Okay? Philo meaning brotherly. So there is a battle, this jihad, and it's often talk about the jihad. Okay? It's a spiritual battle between good and evil, Satan against God. That's what the battle is all about. I'm not an English major,
Good and evil should be God and Satan.
Okay, so you should have.
You know what it means.
You know what I mean,
I know.
because you know what good is, because I've got capital G, right? Between good and evil, Satan versus God, or God versus Satan. It's really Satan versus God.
Yeah, it's God that's been, Satan that's been
It's Satan that wants to take. Yeah. So look at Isaiah chapter 14. So when we look at this battle that's happening in the Middle East today, it's more than what meets the eye, right? It's more than what meets the eye. We might think, oh, it's Donald Trump against Iran and he's asking the rest of the world to help him in this battle, but there's more to it than that. It's not only a physical battle, but it's a spiritual battle here that's going on. It's good against evil, and that's what we need to keep in mind. That when we look in the world today, we want to match it up to what we see, okay? So, what we see in the Bible, and it's not what we see philosophically, got it, but what we see biblically. We need to compare everything that we see in the world to the Bible, and sometimes it is difficult to match it up. It's not always that easy, because there's lots of prophecies in the Bible, and we want to be able to interpret these prophecies, but sometimes we don't know when the fulfillment of these prophecies will be, and that's what we try to guess, I guess. All right, verses 12 through to 16. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? Notice what happens when the nations follow Satan or is being controlled by Satan. They become weaker. And isn't that what we see? Donald Trump, if he wasn't standing up and we had another president like Kamala in place, how weak would the world be? And we consider our country pretty weak. And England's pretty weak with their leadership. So here Satan says, which did weaken the nations. Verse 13, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will. This is the pride coming out, right? The battle between good and evil, between Satan and God. God and Satan, that battle where Satan says, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon on the mount of the congregation and the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms? Is this Satan?
What are we afraid of?
Yeah, what are we afraid of? And yet everybody's sort of afraid of Satan. I mean, he is pretty clever. And he is the created being, the pinnacle, well, not quite a pinnacle, we're the pinnacle of God's creation, but certainly Satan was created, great. Yeah. But as you can see here, this battle, this I will battle, and it's going one way, isn't it? It's an I will, I will. Yes, I. And let's go to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. And verse 14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. He's a deceiver. He's a deceiver. People saying, why are we so against homosexuality? Why are we against euthanasia? Why are we against abortions? Why are we against Muslims? And why are we against all these, allowing these people to come into our country? Because they weaken the nation. They weaken the nation. And Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. These things might look good. We could be accepting of these sins, because we know that sin is sin. We can only change their minds by presenting the gospel, and that they follow what God says in his word. But it says here that Satan has transformed himself into an angel of light. And in other words, he looks good, but he's actually evil. The other verse that you could bring out here is he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And we need to sometimes peel back from our politicians or people who are standing up to rule our country and say, peel back the external and say, well, what actually are you made of? Are you actually a wolf in sheep's clothing? Are you only saying these things to get elected? What are you doing? So the spiritual battle has spilled over into the physical, and we can see that happening today, especially in the Middle East. And the anti-Semitism that is still rife, and they're still promoting the the fallacy or the lie about Israel being or causing, what's the word? Not Genesis. What's the word?
Genocide.
Genocide. Yes, causing genocide. But Israel wasn't doing that at all. So Islam is being used by Satan. Now that's a pretty bold sort of statement. But it's true. Because Satan wants to attack the Jews and Christians. That's what Satan's primary role is. And as you read the book of Revelation and look and study what the tribulation is all about, especially the second half of the tribulation, is to try and get rid of every single Jew. Isn't that what Hitler tried to do? Tried to get rid of every Jew. And Christianity stands in the way of that. So Satan wants to get rid of Christianity as well. You know, then people seem to be more accepting of Islam than they are of Christianity. In fact, Islam is far more dogmatic in their faith than Christianity ever has been. Islam, as we'll see when we come a little bit further and looking at Sharia law, is pretty tough. And we looked a bit last week how it cannot exist. We can't have two systems. We either got to have our system or Sharia law. We can't have both. But if we have Sharia law, we have to be a Muslim. Otherwise it doesn't work. Okay? So we have to be careful. So Islam is being used by Satan. And the Jews and Christians are being attacked. So compare the Antichrist and the false prophet during the tribulation. Try and get rid of the Jews. Let's have a look at a few Revelation passages. So Revelation chapter 13. And if you know, 13 is an unlucky number for some. Now I don't want to claim this 13 because it's to do with the Antichrist. So 13 verses 5 and 6. Revelation 13 verses 5 and 6. Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? What?
And there was
13.
5.
Oh, 5. Okay.
Would you start?
I started at 4.
Oh,
Anyway, I'll start at 5 then.
you can sound like your son. They worship the dragon.
I don't know. Did I say that?
No, you
No.
didn't. But
Oh,
you said
no.
you started at 4, but no, you didn't.
Oh yeah, I started halfway through 4.
Oh,
Yeah, I turned the page. Verse 5 then.
confuse us.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Now, normally when you speak blasphemies, you're speaking against a god, isn't it? And here, the Antichrist is speaking against Jehovah, our God, right? Blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months, that's 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So he's blaspheming God, right? Blaspheming his name, but also church saints. We got the tabernacle here. So the tabernacle's to do with Jews, right? And so blaspheme the Jews and them that dwell in heaven, the church saints, Old Testament saints. It could be angelic beings as well. Everything that is associated with God. Remember that the church is gone. Okay, the church is raptured. So here we have the Antichrist. And here he's made a peace treaty. And halfway through the peace treaty, the Antichrist, here he blasphemes God. for 3.5 years. He blasphemes God, blasphemes against God, and he blasphemes his name. And because there's only Jews that he's now interested in, because God's going to come back and he's going to restore and he's going to set his reign in Jerusalem. So he wants to stop that from happening. So he, the tabernacle, blasphemes the tabernacle, which is where God will reign. Well, he actually builds a new temple, and them that dwell in heaven. So that's what he's going to do. Down to verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Obviously, if you're going to make war with the saints, you can't make war with the saints in heaven. So you're going to make war with saints on earth, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So who gives him this power? It's satanic. Right? So what we see in the world today, what's happening, it's a battle between good and evil. Okay? Satan is trying to usurp his authority over God. He wants to be in control. And God is going to say, okay, during a tribulation, you're going to have a little bit of a control. You're going to have 3.5 years, 42 months. Okay? And you're going to notice that he says he's going to make, verse 7 again, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So he's going to, yes. Yes. Done it. Yes. And power was given over all kindreds and tongues and nations. He's going to be, I am now all powerful. Because that only belongs to God. Only God's all powerful. And he's going to show his all powerfulness by casting Satan into the bottomless pit and chaining him up for 1,000 years. Chaining him up for... Well, I thought Satan was all powerful. No, he's not. He's not. Okay, turn back to chapter 12. So, what we're seeing here is the battle between good and evil, and often it spills over into the physical. Revelation 12, verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman. Now the woman is Israel. So, what is the dragon? Satan. See the battle? And if I go back a few slides, oops. Satan wants to attack the Jews and the Christians. So we've seen already in chapter 13 of Revelation that he blasphemes the Jews who are worshipping in the tabernacle, and he also blasphemes the Christians and the Old Testament saints and all the angelic realm, blasphemes them all, and then has victory as God gives him victory for a short period of time. So, we go back. There we go, verse 13 again. And when the dragon, which is Satan, saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman, which is Israel, which brought forth the man-child, which is the Lord Jesus Christ. And down to verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, which is the Jews, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. That's the Jews that did not flee in the wilderness, which kept the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So those that make a stand against Satan during the tribulation period, Satan will attack. That's why God says, run to the hills. Don't go back for your coat. Don't go back for your TV set. All right? Just head for the hills and pray that it isn't on the Sabbath day. Pray that you're not with child or giving suck. because that will all stop you from,
Slow you up.
will definitely slow you up, won't it? And if you go back to get your stuff, you're going to be slowed up. You've got to run. This is a thing that they need to do, because those that heed God's word are called the remnant, okay, of her seed. And eventually, of course, 2/3 of the Jews will die, as we read in the book of Zechariah. Right, let's do some Old Testament passages. Jeremiah. So Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations. Jeremiah 30 and verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Okay, Jacob's trouble is the tribulation period, the 7-year tribulation period. The tribulation period is 7 years, right? We often say the Great Tribulation, but the Great Tribulation is really the last half. Okay, so but the whole period is called the time of Jacob's trouble. Now it says Jacob's trouble. It's not talking about Jacob being alive there, because Jacob's been dead for many years. It's talking future. And Jacob's name was changed to Israel. So you could say the time of Israel's trouble. Okay, the time of Israel's trouble. And that's again reference to that tribulation. But notice it is a time of trouble. It's spilled over into the physical. It's a spiritual thing, but spilled over into the physical. The I will do this, and I will do this, and I will do that. But it's spilled over into the physical. How are you going to achieve that, Satan? Well, I will indwell or use Islamic nations. Okay? Daniel, my brother. Daniel 7, verse 25. Okay, so talking about the Antichrist here. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. We've already sort of saw that in Revelation chapter 13. And shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and a dividing of time. So that's 3.5 years. So again, we see here the change of laws that will take place, spilling over into the physical. Because how are you going to control people? By changing the laws, right? By taking away their freedoms, or through fear, you can take away their freedoms. Because the population will gladly give up their freedom to be saved, right? So, for example, during COVID time, everybody was afraid of COVID. Wow, this disease could kill everybody. Everybody could die. So the government took away our freedoms of vaccinations, of whether we want vaccinated or not, took that away, and then ended up with us accepting, vaccine passports, accepting house arrests. We were housebound. We couldn't get a haircut. We couldn't go to the cafe unless we had a vaccine passport. People gave up gave up their freedom to the government. Says, you look after us. And this is what's going to happen. This is what the Antichrist is going to seek to do. So he says he's going to change times and laws. And shall be given into his hand. So God gives into his hand. Over to chapter 8, down to verse 24. Daniel 8:24. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. So what's he going to seek to do? Destroy the holy people. And the holy people are the Jews. So Satan, as you can see, why there's so much attack against Israel. Right? And against Christian countries, simply because they are the ones that are still the salt of the earth. They are the ones, what's salt used for?
Preserve.
Preserve. Yeah, preservation. Okay?
So bringing out the taste.
Yeah. Okay? It preserves. And we are at the moment preserving. Because we're standing up for what is right. We're standing up for the truth. We're standing up for righteousness. And once the church leaves, all that is gone. All that is gone. And Satan will say, well, I can't attack the Christian people. Well, the only way I can do that is to scare them. And so they will need to get the mark of me, or the mark of the beast. And unless you get the mark of the beast, you won't be able to buy or sell. You won't be able to get a job. You won't be able to buy petrol or anything unless you have my mark. And so people will then say, okay, I give up my freedom to receive your mark. And at that point, they've lost everything. Lost everything. Okay, over to chapter 9. Daniel 9 and verse 7.
27. 27.
Oh, sorry, 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. That's the tribulation week, right? 7 years. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So when they've built the tabernacle or the temple, built the tribulation temple, and they're busy sacrificing, the Antichrist is going to cause it to cease, to stop. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. So he makes it desolate by sacrificing an unclean animal on it, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So again, it spills over into the physical. So, because we live in the physical, how is Satan going to deal with us? He has to deal with us physically. And so he does that. So Islam is being used by Satan to attack the Jews and Christians. There's no doubt in my mind about that. No doubt. Because they're the ones that are being attacked. Christianity is being attacked. The Jews are being attacked. Not only physically in Israel, but everywhere. Everywhere. There's protests everywhere. There's even protests against Donald Trump and what he's done in Iran, and saying this Ayatollah Khomeini, he shouldn't have been murdered.
The people in Iran.
And Iran are happy, they're joyful, they're doing the Trump dance. So Muhammad visited the cave of Hira, where he received the first revelation from the angel Jibril. Yeah. Gabriel. Okay? That's the way they say it. Yes, gibberish. Yeah. So that's where Satan entered into bringing Islam together, right? To help him achieve what he wants to achieve. Now, how many years has that been? It's been quite a lot of years, right? That's been happening. It's been over a slow process of time. It hasn't just happened overnight. And so if we go to Galatians 1, Galatians 1, verses 8 and 9. But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. And verse 9 is just a repeat. It says, as we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. Okay? Though, in verse 8, though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel. And isn't that what they claim? It's what they claim. I've just put an evil angel here, right? That's what they claim. That Gabriel, Angel Gabriel, came from heaven and said, God has made a few mistakes. We're going to change the Bible into the Quran and we'll fix the changes. Here, they're accursed. And we can say that those people, now they still need saved, right? And they can still be saved. I'm not saying they're beyond salvation, but they're following Satan. They're following Satan. And as Paul says in Galatians 1, 8 and 9, but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel, and it is another gospel, it is a false gospel. Especially when you take out, we've seen already the diagram where Christ didn't die on the cross, but he ascended up to heaven. Well, where's the blood? Where's the forgiveness of sins? Where's the washing? And without the blood, there's no regeneration. You've got to have that. You've got to have his death, his burial, and his resurrection. And his death is so important. So Muhammad was said to have experienced Gabriel, but when you read the Christian scriptures, Gabriel never had an overwhelmingly press or squeeze or pressure onto someone 3 times until they could bear it anymore. What Muhammad experienced was Satan, the deceiver, and Muhammad was possessed. So we have Satan coming and saying, I'm Gabriel. And you have to accept what I'm going to say to you. Oh, no, I don't accept that. So he presses 3 times until he can't bear it any longer and he accepts it. So I'm going to leave that there and we'll pick it up again next week and we'll see what happens in the world in this week. I mean, we could be raptured. We could be.
That's good.
Yeah. But certainly what we've seen is, and what we can see is, it's not just the war over in the Middle East. It has economic influences on the whole world. Okay? The whole world. And the whole world, because oil is centered in that part. And so it's a battle between good and evil. Between not only good, on behalf of Donald Trump. Some people would say that's not good, but it's good, versus the evil tyrants, whatever it's called, tyrannical rule of the clerics in Iran, and they're continuing to attack Israel. Shows that it's a battle between God and Satan. But we know, I've read the end of the book, I know who the winner is, and I wrote in the end of the book of Revelation, I wrote in here, this is not a fairy tale.
But they lived happily.
Yeah, I'll just read what I've written. It says, this is no fairy tale, but they lived happily ever after.
Amen.
And it's true, isn't it? Well, as long as you're saved.
Yes.
If you're not saved, you're not living happily ever after. So, thank you.